Hi again, back with another in the photography series of working with Photoshop for photographers. And this one is another one we need for our list of little tasks that we've got to do for that task 4. And in our folder for photography class untreated scans, this is within the photos for fixing folder, of course. We've got a number of photographs there that we can work on, and one of them is a torn image. Now, where did I put that one? I beg your pardon, it's not in that folder. We'll need to go back to this folder and find that torn image, and I think it starts with T. Okay, here we are. This is the image that we've got a scan of an image that's been torn. I'm still in my crop tool there, so I'll get out of that, and let's just zoom in a little bit and see how we can work on this. So it's a case of trying to repair that area that's obviously broken down inside here, and the tool that of choice for this, if we were doing it manually, is going to be our clone stamp tool. So if I choose the clone stamp tool, and that brush size that happens to be there isn't too bad, but of course to change the brush size, remember we hold down the Control and Alt keys, or the Option and Command keys on the Mac, and with the right mouse button held down we can move the mouse left or right to modify the size of the brush. And a hardness of 0% is probably going to be a pretty good idea here, a nice soft edge, so that the transitions between where we paint and where we don't are going to be less apparent. Now again, using the clone stamp tool, we hold down the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac to identify an area that we want to use as our cloning source, and I click there once, and now when I move my cursor over to the stamp or to the torn part, I can start painting, and you can see that where the crosshairs are there is what is being copied into the area that I'm repairing. Control Z to undo things is going to be a pretty handy thing to use here. Now I might just use this source over here for a while and start painting down here. So it's going to be a case of just working where the best source is going to be for your image, and working carefully bit by bit. And then when you get down to areas like this, it's a good idea to zoom in, and again here I'm using my Control and Spacebar keys to zoom in, and then I add the Alt key to zoom out, and that the Spacebar alone will allow me to move the image around. And here I'm going to downsize my brush just a touch, because it's going to be a little bit too big for some of this stuff here, and I'll use set another clone source and start painting down here. And you can see if there's a bit of bit of dust or something that's picked up in the scan, you're going to repeat that every time you paint with it. So I'll just paint that out there, and again here I'll zoom in a little bit closer, bring my brush size down again, so that I can work more carefully, and here I can then use this as a clone source and start painting over here to fix up the gap where his jumper is. So I start painting down there, and one of the problems here is going to be that the colors are quite different from one side to the other here, so we need to kind of make a blend if we can. But let's get this in first and see how we go here. And then when I come down to the arm here, I need to just make sure that it does actually fit. So I'm going to paint across here, and that's not quite perfect there. So I need to just make that transition of pixels there, and you can see that that's working out not too badly there. And then I can quickly work my way down here, and then here I need to try and find an area that is going to suit for cloning when I get down to this kind of critical area. And you can see how that's building up there. And I just continue to work like that. Again, this area is going to be problematical because of the transition here, but there are a couple of things we can actually do to blend the two areas. One is that we can use a tool down here called the blur tool, and if I make my brush slightly bigger again here and just try and blur some of this, it's going to blur the transition, but that's not going to work too well there by the look. I might try the smudge tool that's hiding underneath the blur tool. Again, I'll just make that brush slightly bigger and just kind of smudge that in a little bit here. So it just changes the transition between the two areas and makes it less apparent that you've made the corrections. So while this isn't going to be perfect, it's going to be almost unnoticeable to the average person. And then I just need to fix up that last little bit there with my clone stamp, and we're pretty much in business there. Now that's one technique, and to the average person they're not going to really notice that I've done anything there. So the other ways, if I now hit F12 or go to my file menu and ask to revert, it'll bring back the original image again because I haven't been saving along the way. And another technique we can use, which you may find an awful lot more attractive, is to use in the more recent versions of Photoshop, they brought in a technique of using content aware fill. Now I'm using my lasso tool here. I'll just deselect that, so I'm going to go up to select, deselect, and the lasso tool is this tool here, and if I click and drag, it will select an area that I define by clicking and dragging. So I've made an area there. Now I can go up to edit, fill, and change the contents from foreground color to content aware and leave all the rest normal, and then go OK, and like magic it fills that area in. And you'll find you get varying results in different areas. So I'm going to just get another clone here and try and see how that one goes. So I go edit, fill, and now this time it's still on content aware. Let's see how that goes. Doesn't do too bad. And again here I'll just make another quick selection and go edit, fill, and content aware again, and doesn't do too bad. And again, to deselect it's just Control D, or if you're on a Mac it's Command D. Now there's a bit of a fix up needed there where the arm has got a bit of a kink in it, but that's not impossible to do. So you can see how quickly you could arrange the whole thing there. Let's just do that one final one there and see how this goes. Fill, content aware, and not too bad at all. And Control D to deselect, and you can see that's that new alternative is a very good way of working. Okay, that will do for the fixing up of the image. That's the end of the series of things we need to do to satisfy the requirements of the assessment, but I'll add in a few extra videos of things that you might like to do with your photography that just make it a little bit interesting. That's the end of that video.